crash course maybe that you experienced in?
Was actually basically crash course for everybody except Kaua'i. He speaks fluent, so my Kaua'i, mahalo kea. But I think what was important was we only had this amount of time to teach this amount of language. And so for the four of us, I think our challenge was total focus on pronunciation, cadence, the way the sentences are pronounced, understanding how to say words. And I think that was, considering for the amount of time, like for me with Jason, it was like, he did very amazing. And the rest of the team, after being coached, the rest of the team also, I mean, was struggles for some who never spoke the language, and then struggles for some who had some familiarity with other languages. And so it was pretty awesome considering the amount of time we had.
And I would love to hear from the actor's perspective, your process in diving into the material and really getting into this as well.
Yeah, he was the only one who knew what he was doing. For me, I'm born and raised on Maui. I went to Waimea school, so for me it wasn't completely foreign to jump into the language, but to jump into the language to this extent where we have to be fluent and it's a different time period. And not only that, the biggest struggle for us is how do you learn the language, memorize the language, and then act at the same time. So, you know, I didn't want to just be saying words. I wanted to know what I was saying to make sure that I was giving the proper performance when it came to it. So it took a lot of time, which we didn't have much time. I'm not sure if anyone said it yet, but we filmed this movie in 16 days. 16 days, completely, pretty much off the grid. We lived in a COVID bubble. All of us, we were best friends for those 16 days. We saw each other every morning, every night, dinner, breakfast, lunch, all the time. So it was not a lot of time. We had maybe an extra week of prep. So Jason and I both coming from a background of not being fluent, it was a lot of stress. And for me, I can speak on the point. Again, I was born and raised, I went to Waimea schools. There's a lot of weight on my shoulders taking on a role like this. I was almost, I mean, actually I do, I'll be honest, in the very first time I found out it was gonna be in Hawaii, I was like, I can't do this. There's a speaker out there that can do this. And our kumus, David, everyone was so supportive to say like, no, this is your kuleana, this is your duty, you can do this. So having that backing and then jumping in to our lessons, I mean, hours and hours. I mean, we had 24 hours in the day and I felt like more than half of it was studying this and practicing, because if I was gonna take this role and portray Pi'ilani for the first time on screen, I wanted to do it right. I wanted to make sure when someone hears our language out in Montana that they're gonna hear it right for the first time. So I was really stressed, but Kumulenala, Kumunao, they really had our back every day. I mean, they literally had themselves mic'd up every sentence we said to tell us, okay. So we got through it, but I'm really proud of where it came from, and I just really hope it resonates with everyone. And as how many Hawaiians came up to us and they felt tears in their eyes just hearing the language on the big screen. I'm an actress and I'm a Hawaiian, and this is how I can preserve our culture, preserve our language, and if it resonates with you guys, then I did my job.
Ua maupopo wau pea e olelo ai ma Kaua'i Hawaii, a ka mauno I loa ai kekahi kumu o ia hoi o kumu kauhane no ka mea ua kokua o ia me ia'u pea e olelo ai I like me kekahi mana leo. Even though I know how to speak Hawaiian, I still had to have a teacher. You know, I'm not perfect, no one's perfect, but I still had a teacher, and he helped me try to portray how they would speak Hawaiian back then. Of course, I might have not done my best job, but I tried my best, and you know.
And Jason, can you share some of what your experience was like working on this film? You know, like as compared to other projects you may have worked on, and just really how you were able to dive into it?
There's so many films that in the past that I've been doing this, gosh, for quite a long time, over 30 plus years. And there's very few times in those 30 plus years that you connect with a script and you connect with a story. And I think especially because I was raised on Oahu, it had that depth. And the stories like this you don't come across, with so many universal truths, with so many themes that hit home, with so many issues that are current today, in a little that was, a story that was, done in the 1800s. So it was very exciting to get a part of this, but I knew, like looking at the script, even though a script is good, it's really how, it's how you execute it. And I think we got so lucky on this one. We were very fortunate, because David, being a seasoned director, and all of us as actors putting our trust, and other producers putting our trust into his vision, and seeing it come to fruition, and seeing the execution of it all come together. And when I first saw it, I emailed David and our other producer, Dale. I said, wow. I said, you know what, guys? You guys have a classic on your hands. Because I've done a lot of films. But, when you get the impression, we screened this movie in numerous cities across the U.S. and for festivals. And the emotional expressions that come out of the theaters are just phenomenal. I mean, and so it doesn't just resonate with Hawaiians, it resonates with people of other cultures because of the truths in it. And, coming onto the project, I know, like we say 16 days, there was a lot of people came in, they had to quarantine for 2 weeks before they even started the film. So Henry Ian Cusick and Jonathan Sheck, who played the Hitchcock and McCabe, I see them jogging back and forth on this 40-acre, 50-acre property that we shot on, and just staying in shape, and everybody quarantining, everybody coming on and quarantining, and then you got to shoot the film. And then for me, being a non-native speaker, and I didn't speak a lick of Hawaiian, but I knew, and I grew up here, and I understood some of the words, but not, could never put a sentence together. So when I worked with Kumunawa, and his graciousness, and the way he came at it, I felt like a deep resonance. He said, and I panicked, I was like, whoa, we got 2 weeks. And we started cramming and this was COVID time. So you're on a Zoom call. And I live in kind of the Kaua'i on the Big Island, so I get 2 G. And so dropping in and out. And it was just so frustrating, but he stayed with it. And he was so just breathe. He goes, I said, I don't know if I'm gonna do this. I panicked, I picked up the phone, I called David Cunningham. David, I can't do this, bro. It's you better find yourself a native speaker or someone with some ability to do this, because not only you can say a sentence when you're reading it off the page, but to act it, to hear it back spoken to you, and you responding in your eyes, that you understand the feeling, you understand the emotion, you understand the time period, you understand the crisis that it's going through, and then respond back It's like, wait a minute, there's too many levels to work on. And he said, no, he goes, I'll give you an extra week. I said, what? I need 6 months. He said, well, we're gonna start filming, but we'll have a week where the Olelo Hawaii is not gonna be, spoken. So he goes, you just trust me. He goes, stay with it. I know you're good. You're in good hands. I said, yeah, I know I'm in good hands. And so, Kumunawa, hey, Hawaii, I said, yeah, I'm part of Hawaii. It's in your DNA, bro. It's in your hundreds of years. It's only hundreds of years before you are standing here now. People spoke this language every day of their life. Day in and day out, it is something that is in your cells. And never thought of it that way. So it helped inspire me, you know, and that's what great teachers do. They inspire you, and we stuck with it, and I'm glad we did, because it was like, oh, you know, I don't know if it was perfect, but I think I had a feeling about it. And you're sitting at the end of the scenes, and David's going, cut, and he's looking out above the kumu, and the kumu is like, and they'll go, oh, it's like got through that tape, and it was like that on every tape. So it was like, that was the mounting pressure. And it was just wonderful. I mean, and just to see that we were able to convey the emotion of the language, the poetry of the language, the heartfelt sincerity of real communication and real dialogue. That was beauty. So, I mean, there's so many stories I could stay here all night to tell you. But it's some.
And to circle back, just mentioning, you know, the fact that this was shot under COVID protocols. I mean, it's such an endeavor to, you know, go through the process of creating a film in perfect conditions. But can you speak on a little bit more of like the challenges, you know, even maybe from a production standpoint of what you experienced in making it at this time?
We didn't have any money to make this movie. David's, Shuttleton's pitch, you know, come, you know, live on a retreat center that we couldn't afford, but because no one was staying there during COVID, we were able to get a good deal. And it was like that with everything. I mean, this movie was shot on lenses that cost $20,000 a week to rent. I got them for $5,000 because they were sitting on a shelf, and I hit them up the week before. I said, if they're sitting on the shelf, can I have them for $5,000 for, you know, 3 weeks? We shot for 16 days. I mean, and basically we didn't have time, you know? I mean, he talks about, you know, acting this, try doing it in 1-2 takes. Movies that have budgets, you sit there, you do 8 takes, then you turn around, you do 8 more takes. David was directing knowing that he didn't have time. It wasn't about him, it was about finishing the film. And he would move on so quick, and these guys did this in like, I mean, they had the hand of God on them. There's no way they would get this done anyway. But yeah, you know, at one point, we were doing, we started doing rapid tests, or we started doing PCR tests, but we were originally budgeted for rapid tests, and at one point, the machine failed when we switched to rapid tests, and then we went back to PCRs, and we were like, how are we gonna pay for this? And, you know, we're still trying to figure out how we're gonna pay our investors back, and, you know, we haven't been able to get distribution for this film because it's spoken in Olelo, it's considered a foreign language, and, you know, for distributors, you know, to put this movie out into screens, it'd be about 15 to 20 million to market it, and you gotta make that money back. But nobody wants to pay to go sit in theaters and watch a subtitled movie these days, unless it won the Oscars. So I'll let David talk about the next steps. But while I have the mic, we're showing this film tomorrow to the low-level schools, to our charter schools, our 4 charter schools here on the island, and Hola Hola sponsored it, and Keep a Ranch. And then Saturday, we got Nepali Experience sponsoring some of our tickets. We couldn't be here without Hawaiian Airlines. They've been flying us all around Boston, New York. We were in the Bay Area the other day, so thank you, Hawaiian Airlines. Yeah, we want to be here. I mean, I was born and raised here, so I'd be here. But I'll be at the next screenings. Still looking for sponsors and community members that want to help them put more of these screenings at different events on the islands. I want, you know, all Hawaiians to take pride in this film. I want Kanakas to have this as a banner for their language, so we can perpetuate Olelo in our schools, not just in our charter schools, but in every school. Like, it shouldn't just be Hawaiian studies, we should also have Olelo studies, right? So that's at more of a DOE level. And then, you know, I mean, obviously the film brings light to Hawaiians' battles for sovereignty, or at least at the very least, Native American representation from a federal level, right? So hopefully this film can start some movements there. Film's showing Saturday at noon, Sunday at 11, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 7 p.m. So tell your friends to come out. Tickets are on thewindandthereckoning.com. That's the fastest way to get to them. And then we're opening up on Maui this week. and on Friday, tomorrow, and then Big Out next week. So all our actors will be in Kaua'i theaters tomorrow night and Saturday. So tell your friends on Maui to come meet these guys.
Just want to kind of, you've been sharing about
Beyond Paradise was my first movie back in the day, and I worked for the studios for many years, and then came back home to try to make more projects here. And we're super grateful, the film industry, to have the Jurassic Parks of the world to come here, the backdrops and so on, and they do put a lot of people to work. We get to participate in all of that. But we have so many stories of our own in Hawaii to tell. And we have the storytellers to tell them behind the camera and in front of the camera. And I think we've proven that with this film. And you look at an industry in Auckland, New Zealand, for example, on how they've really done that. And I really believe in Hawaii and the creative community that we have here. So that's why it's so important that you guys are here, because we're out to prove Hollywood that there is an audience. And as we've been touring around on the continent, we've been having many indigenous elders come and cry with our native Hawaiian friends, and they talk about their language. And so it's the mother tongue is like music. It goes right to the soul. It transcends so much. And so we're out to prove that that's a key important thing that should be more in cinema. So we're so grateful.
And on that note as well, congratulations for winning the Made in Hawaii Award.
Oh, thank you.
Also winning the award at Boston International and other accolades. So wishing you all a continued success to go on further and bring this to wider audiences.